Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Big Innovation Pitch. We're, as BRE, absolutely delighted to be hosting and sponsoring this event and partnering with Future Build in doing so. And I'm pleased to welcome Sam Stacey and Keith Waller as my fellow judges this afternoon. Just a quick word, if I may, about BRE and the role that we aspire to playing. And I would say that BRE is a unique body. Throughout our 100-year existence, we've been at the forefront of construction, innovation and research. And we still seek, after, as I say, nearly 100 years, to be a provider of science-based solutions that will shape the future of the construction industry and the built environment. And the challenges, of course, decarbonisation, waste management, building security and safety, all under the spotlight today and at the heart of BRE's mission. Just a few examples of how we're pursuing that mission and playing our part in tackling these challenges. We continue to celebrate BREEAM, as one of the drivers of greater built environment, building asset sustainability and performance, and not just in the UK. Earlier this week we had our BREEAM Awards celebrating 30 years of that scheme, and we had winning schemes from all over the world. I'm sure many of you have visited our innovation park just outside Watford, and that is not the only innovation park in the world. There's a network of those parks. In the UK, we have another one in Scotland and also internationally as a platform through which innovative techniques and products can be tested in real situations and demonstrated to show their potential. We have, of course, a large number of research and development experts working with partners across industry to test methodology for testing and also to set standards to deliver a resilient, safe and sustainable built environment. And most recently, we've been delighted to take part as one of 3 collaborators in the Construction Innovation Hub, the Hub as it's known, where we're continuing to work with our partners, the Manufacturing Technology Centre and the Centre for Digital Built Britain, to work on transforming the construction industry. And Keith will speak a little bit more about that later on. So our task today is to unearth true innovation from across the built environment, celebrate those who are seeking new answers to the most difficult and complex challenges that we face. And we believe it's essential that these pioneering solutions are identified and supported to drive the real change that I'm sure we all want to see. And that's why we're here today. So here we are, the Big Innovation Pitch Finals. And as I understand it, there was a very lively day of pitching yesterday, which resulted in 6 shortlisted innovators from across 6 categories who were battling it out in a Dragon's Den style pitch to become the finalist for their sector. And these sectors include buildings, off-site, critical infrastructure, interiors, energy, and resourceful materials. So we have one winner from each of those categories, now about to slug it out in front of you. And here's how the session will work. So the winning innovator from each challenge has returned today, all sitting here in the audience, and they will have 5 minutes each to pitch their idea, and we, the judges, will then have 5 minutes to quiz them and probe their ideas and really test their suggestions. We will then, after 10 minutes deliberation, crown the overall winner of the pitch. We have Seema here, who will be keeping strict time. Actually, not Seema, Amy, apologies, Amy, who will be keeping us to time. So strict 5 minutes, there will be a 1-minute warning. And I would like to invite now the first pitcher to come to the stage. Here we go. Off we go. Good luck to all pitchers.
Got your clicker there?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, I'm Mark Pelland, architect, technical director and designer of the Passive Pod. My journey began 30 years ago travelling the world and experiencing firsthand the effects of climate change and environmental devastation. For the last 20 years, I've been designing healthy, low-energy buildings and built my own award-winning zero-carbon house and office.
Hi, I'm Clive Bonney, Commercial Director. I've been providing green innovation services to home workers, corporates and education bodies for 25 years, helping over 200 green growth and clean tech startups. Mark and I teamed up in 2016 with a passion for social inclusion and environmental health. We've invested over £100,000 of our own money to create zero carbon buildings made off-site for people of all ages and abilities in living, leisure and learning.
Many buildings are constructed with low consideration to the environment or the health and well-being of occupants, leading to unsustainable, unhealthy and largely uninspiring results. They're often uncomfortable, expensive to heat, with poor quality construction and wasteful of materials and resources. Our solution is the Passive Pod, the first low-carbon ovoid or egg-shaped structure inspired by nature. Our designs offer healthy, stimulating and restorative spaces. Their unique shape, triple glazing and heat recovery ventilation conserves heat, and all natural materials avoid the toxic off-gassing found in most new buildings. Our biophilic design not only delivers 80% energy savings, but it can improve well-being and cognitive abilities. Passive Pod will be manufactured off-site with a modular structure inspired by nature's hexagonal beehive shape. The structural modules will be formed from short rectilinear timber components, clad and insulated in the factory. Automated factory efficiencies reduce waste and improve build quality for rapid delivery and erection. A cradle-to-cradle approach allows all the components to be reused or recycled at the end of their design life. Laminated timber is fire retardant, more resilient, and lower maintenance than traditional materials, and our fabricators apply ISO standards and have BOPAS accreditation for mortgageability.
Our three markets are driven by demographic growth. Millions of home workers need space which is secure, kiddie-proof, and easy to install. Our retirement population and eco-tourists want high-quality eco-lodges using natural materials, harmonious with rural landscapes. 17,000 schools and colleges have committed in the UK to a national eco-schools programme. They need classrooms which would reduce current carbon dioxide by 30%, and biophilic design improves cognitive abilities in students by 20%. We have a supply chain in place with experienced off-site timber fabricators. Our 6 multi-use designs use the same modular components. We can scale up via the new off-site MMC fabricators without new factory costs. Housing has the biggest impact on the quality of life. Lifestyle media love our ability to improve student learning levels, home worker productivity, and quality of life for retired people. Our PR coverage educates the public on the benefits of off-site modular manufacturing. Completed build prices are affordable. We want buyers to see the unique finished design, so we're not selling off-plan. We're raising £400,000 to build showrooms with support staff. Our income plan ensures sustainability. just 550 sales in 5 years gives £57 million gross revenue and a 25% net profit margin for reinvestment. Our EU and North American markets are 10 times bigger. All our designs have 25 years IP protection for international licensing. Advanced stage payments for each build protects cash flow for fast growth. Our solution is inclusive for a diverse society, needing inspiring, healthy, and sustainable buildings. Passive Pod will improve the quality of life for people of all ages and abilities. I'll end by asking for your support to ensure future build generations get ahead of a curve. Thank you. We take questions.
Sam, do you want to ask the first question?
This is working, yeah.
Yes.
So, have you? How confident are you about the costing of the cost of production? Have you prototyped, and what do you know about the cost?
We're raising the money for the initial showrooms, which will be the prototypes. My partner Mark Pellant, as we've heard, has got 25 years in costing and establishing low carbon and eco buildings using the nature of prefabricated timber, and we have done a lot of market testing with potential consumers. So we've got actually a pipeline of 30 people who want to actually place the orders. We're relying now on the finance to create the showrooms, so we're not selling off plan.
Thank you.
Okay, Keith?
Can you just talk us through your projected energy in use and savings and how they'll manifest itself to perhaps homeowners or to people you talked about in schools or people who operate schools, local authorities or the department, please?
Yeah, we should save overall 80% in energy. Most of it will be in heating because they are passive house design, so they will need very little heating. There may be some cooling in the summer, but generally the figure is about 80%.
I'd just like to pick up on that point and some of the other claims that you made. What sort of testing have you done to verify the claims that you're making about performance?
This is based on my own house, which is built from a similar system of timber construction, natural materials, and renewables. So it's yeah.
And that has been independently verified by qualified assessors.
Thank you. Sam or Keith, any more questions?
I just have one quick question. In terms of scalability, obviously there's a huge demand for housing in the United Kingdom. There's a big demand for improving our social infrastructure. There's a real drive to decarbonise the built environment. You talked about a 5-year plan. What's a sustainable long-term plan for delivering these sort of biophilic designs?
Well, you will know that the government itself has pumped in over £3 billion in the last year into the social housing market, specifically for off-site manufacturing, and last year 15,000 homes were built off-site through MMC. The market size potential, therefore, is extremely high in the UK and even higher in abroad, where timber fabricated buildings are much more popular than they currently are in the UK.
One last question. Have you encountered any planning constraints, or what do you anticipate in terms of planning constraints?
Just the usual, really. But no, we don't. In fact, we have had some positive feedback from planners down in the southeast. They like the inspiring shape of the building, especially when it's sitting in special spaces like national parks and conservation areas, that kind of thing.
And I'd add that rural landowners are particularly happy with the plans because the local planners have indicated a faster process for zero carbon buildings.
Thank you. They look very attractive from my point of view, so I hope the planners are supportive.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite the second final entrant, Gapo Group. Gapo Tape, yes.
Hello everyone. Firstly, if you can't guess by my lovely Irish brogue, we are a UK company and we make and manufacture this product. It's called Gapo Tape and it works in conjunction with insulation board, and to sum it up, we make it work. So this is a wee brief video demonstration of what it looks like whenever it goes in. Oh. So basically, you're going to measure your raft or a stud as you typically would, but in this case, you're going to cut it 8 to 10 millimeters smaller than the opening. Cut your board as you would, clean it off, and then roll your Gapo tape along the cut edge and trim with your scissors. Don't run with them while you're using them, health and safety and all that. You're going to do this for all 4 sides, and then that's it. Just strike along the edge. And whenever you have this done, you can friction fit it between the raft or a stud, and it is constantly expanding and contracting to fill every micro gap to eradicate any air or heat loss. And you do this in your floors, your walls, and your roofs. Now you may say, why would I do this on my floors, my walls, and my roofs? What's the advantage? Well, in 2012, the BBA started doing what's called Air Movement and Permeability Report on insulation types. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying in-situation tests on insulation. They did it with multiple types in multiple positions, PIR, mineral wool, multifoil, and what they found was that regardless of the insulation they used, all insulation types systematically failed. The U values were 80% higher on average, 80%. Why? Because of the gaps. Now, whenever I say gaps to anybody, especially a builder, they think a gap is 1 to 5 millimeters. To earn heat, they need gaps so small our human eye can't see it, less than 1 millimeters. And once they find this, they redirect the entire flow and current of air and heat to maximize and take advantage of it. And the analogy I like to use to guys is, imagine you lived beneath a water dam and the architect and builder said to you, don't worry, there's only the tiniest of tiny gaps around the edge. You wouldn't be long maybe looking on Property Pal for somewhere else to move to. So this is the end effect of this. The homeowner has to subsidise this 80% rise in U value. They have to take the money out of their pocket and they have to allow it to slip between the gaps. And it also has other nasty effects such as releasing an extra ton of carbon into the air every 10 years by conservative estimates. So we went back to the BBA and the MPL and we said, can we rerun the test, doing one with, one without our product to see what impact it would have. Without us, it was the same as they found in 2012, 80% loss, and it's the same thing found in other accredited bodies across Europe. With us, 0% loss. We 100% eradicated the difference between as designed and as built, and the performance gap was gone. So the reason this is particularly pertinent, that is in June 2020, it's no longer do I address this issue, it's how do I address this issue. There's now an entire annex on insulation gaps, and you have to work towards as-built U values and calculations. You have to swear by your primary energy use per square metre. You have to new testing, and you have to take a photograph of every single piece of insulation you're putting in. So it's becoming ridiculously strict. And there's £480 million worth of PIR sold every year. So a big issue in a big market is a big problem. And if you were to take us and say a small 2-up, 2-down house, it's about £600 to £620 to install Gapo tape. It's £120 to £150 of savings per year. That's 4 years to pay that off, and that's approximately £4,000 saved over 30 years, which is a 530% yield on investment. The wee joke we like to say is that if Gapo tape was a stockbroker, he'd be the most popular man in London, you know. So, and plus when it comes to time and cost of install, people don't think about how long it actually takes to install insulation. You have to bevel it, you have to counterbat, and you have to do all these things. With us, people tape them and take advantage of the 10 to 20 millimetre margin of error we give and walk along and slide them in like jigsaw pieces, and then they get rid of all these hidden costs such as timber stop batten, spray foam, metallic tape. In this particular job, we saved a guy £2,000 over 3 houses. So that's it. It's ridiculously simple, but this can no longer happen. The performance gap has to be designed out, both in regulations and the mind of the consumer and the architect, and we think it's as simple as using a piece of tape and foam which eradicates 3 tons of carbon in a roof alone in a small 2-up, 2-down house. And this is what Gapo tape looks like on a retrofitted timber stud. It works beautifully, taking out all the little issues, and that's it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Keith, I'm going to start with you this time. questions.
Thanks. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
You described a way of how you would apply this
Yes.
solution on a traditional construction site.
Yes.
Do you see there opportunities to deploy it on perhaps more off-site manufactured solutions as well?
I have about 8 NDAs signed with companies that are working on something just like this, but yeah, that's our goal. Say we noticed it very early on whenever we were working with one of these companies that happens to have a timber company, and they were trying to use it, and they said we don't even have to measure the rafters anymore because of the difference. We can trim these and push them in, and so it was very lucrative in their eyes, and we're definitely going in for that. But that's in development at the minute.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question about unintended consequences.
Yes.
Have you tested for consequences of adding this?
Such as, say, how it would add to
Other
yeah.
impacts of making
So by
installation,
increasing the air tightness and
or
say the thermal
things like
performance.
fire safety.
Yeah. Oh well, definitely in fire safety we have category E, which is the same as the best performing PIR and better than the other 90%. We take that very seriously. We've actually went a step and beyond, and we're now getting Effectus, UCAS accredited body, to design an in situ test on our product because we're all about as-built performance. But in regards to the negative effects, we don't actually do anything above and beyond what it's supposed to be doing at this minute in time. We're giving you exactly as it's supposed to be doing. So that's whenever it comes to unintended consequences, the unintended consequence is not using gapo tape, in our eyes. So I hope I've answered it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sam?
You give some figures for cost of installation. To what extent are those kind of idealised figures, or have you got real feedback on site from tradespeople?
So to be brutally honest, where I come from, my part of the world, you don't really get by with dodging figures. It's sort of our mentality of everything's exactly as quoted. This is how I work it out. For years, whenever we pitched this product, it was always, it's a wee bit extra, but it's worth it. It's builders that came to us and said, I'm no longer using this and I saved this amount. Why aren't you pushing ahead with this? So we started doing time trial studies where guys took 20 minutes and they were overtaking everyone else, finishing 50% faster. And then because we're very upfront with our pricing, and the best thing I can tell you is I'll actually give a builder stuff for free, say to them, go use it and come back to me, because I know you will. It's a wee bit like the addiction thing. So we actually have a sheet that breaks down all of our pricing that we hand out to anybody who requests it, and gives counterbat and spray foam, things like that, and compares it to it, because transparency, in our particular case, it's very helpful as our best salesman, So
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Very encouraging.
Anything else, Keith? No? Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Thank you very much for your time, guys. Hope it's
Thank
worth
you.
it. Cheers.
Thank you.
So now we're going to welcome Ripe Office to the stage.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Harbour, I work for Ripe Office. It's a real pleasure to be here, so thank you very much for having me. It feels to me like 2019 year was the year about a collective awakening to the necessity to do something about the climate emergency. And what's really pleasing about being here is that 2020 isn't about declaring, it's not about acknowledging, it's about thinking about how we respond. And when we're thinking about the commercial environment, we think the way to do this is to think about what's strategically the most important. And for this, we base our evidence on an amazing bit of research by an embodied energy professor called Dr. Graham Trelaw. He essentially looked at the analysis of the embodied energy across a whole 40-year life of a commercial building. And what was instinctively surprising to us was that the biggest single emitter and source of greenhouse gas emissions was furniture. That's because you only build a core of a building once, but you cycle the furniture in and out of a building every 5 to 6 years and throw a huge amount away. Every working day in the UK, we send 300 tons of office furniture to landfill. It's a staggering figure that doesn't need to be this way. And what I'm here to do in my short presentation is to explain what we do and how a circular alternative can be more sustainable, offer more social value, and be better cost for money without compromising on design or aesthetics at all. Our business model begins by understanding the customer's requirements. We have a free and award-winning team of interior designers and architects who sit with a client and design a space. We then begin to source furniture. Now we can do that from a client's existing stock of furniture, We can go out to the second-hand market, of which there's, again, 300 tons of office furniture going to landfill every working day. Or we can go and design our own furniture from sustainable materials and other sources. We then remanufacture those items. Remanufacturing is a quality-controlled engineering process in which you restore an item to as new, both in appearance and in functionality. We take that very seriously. We have a team of engineers and product designers that work out how to do that. And on large projects, we like to do that process with as much long-term unemployed and disabled labour as we can, because it's perfectly acceptable to offer someone an opportunity who's further from the workforce rather than outsourcing it to China. It's never going to be cost effective to send a chair to China and get it back to have it remanufactured. So everything we do locally to create UK jobs. We transport and install the furniture ourselves, and we sell it to the client with a guaranteed buyback. Instead of having to pay for it to have it cleared, we will pay you to have it back, because ultimately we know we can rework it and again feed it into our cycles. Now, the next immediate question that you will probably be thinking is, will it look as new? Will there be a detrimental impact in terms of the appearance? Here is an example. This is a high-end ergonomic award-winning chair that we have remanufactured. On the left is the original equipment manufacturer photo. It's a £756 list price chair. On the right, you'll see our remanufactured chair. The only difference is that the arms are backwards because we messed up the photo shoot. Now, what you'll see here is something that entirely visually represents exactly the same product. You can look at the finishes on both the arms and the base. The difference is that it's 26% of the list price. A huge cost reduction, because you're not going through a network of dealers and other people who make a margin. So this is the point about cost advantages. When you remanufacture, when you use the circular economy, you have a structural cost advantage. This is because in our industry, one of the main advantages is based around the fact that you don't have to pay a huge distributor margin. There's also the advantages in terms of not having to pay the material costs, because the input to our process is a waste source that people are paying to get rid of. So to summarize, the benefits of circular economy furniture are it's lower cost, ergonomic, no cost of disposable, great ergonomics, reduced waste to landfill, local employment for long-term unemployed and disabled people, and a real capability to deliver local social value. We also have gone one step further, because we didn't want to be known as the second-hand furniture guys. We designed furniture from waste materials. What you'll see on the left is a table with a top made from yogurt pots. The base is a table made from black plastic wrapping and kitchen chopping boards. We found that our service has been relevant to a number of different sectors, including landlords, property service management companies, and government bodies as well, who all are attracted by the price point, the sustainability, and the local social value. So we've delivered 160 projects, we've saved clients millions, we've saved over a million kgs of CO2 embodied, we prevented 1 day's worth of furniture from going to landfill, and we provided 6,500 hours of paid living wage employment for long-term unemployed and disabled people throughout our process. One case study project, this is a 550-person office we did for Public Health Wales. 550 people, 94% of the furniture was refurbished or remanufactured, including some desks from the James Bond movie Spectre, and 8 people with long-term unemployed people with disabilities were employed. So further projects here, and here. Thank you very much. Together we could build a better, more sustainable future.
Thank you very much. Sam, you going to start?
Yes, you quoted some really quite astonishing figures for the amount that goes to landfill.
Yeah.
In reality, what proportion of that could you address? Because presumably a lot of it is kind of unfixable, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And there's also a further 200 tons that goes into kind of material recycling every working day. So you're looking, just to be completely transparent about the figures, about 500 tons. Realistically, you can't remanufacture everything. If it's designed badly, it hasn't been designed for disassembly, then you can't cost-effectively remanufacture it. But for example, the chair that we showed, there's about 50,000 of those coming out of offices every working day. So there's more than enough to build a really sizable and scalable business. There's also interesting things you can do with materials that you can't make back into its original furniture items. So for example, we take old returned desktops and we turn those into shelving units. So it has to be designed well for it to be effectively remanufactured, but that is a significant proportion of furniture, and given the huge amount out there, enough to build a sizable business operation.
In terms of scalability then,
Yeah.
you talked about 300 tonnes a day
Yeah.
going to landfill at the moment.
Yeah.
How much of that are you taking at the moment, of that 300 tonnes a day?
So we've done 300 tons of furniture since we incorporated, or maybe now 300 to 400 tons.
And that, over what period is that?
Since 2015.
So that you're doing, is that about a third of a tonne a day?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
So do you think the gap between the third of the tonne you're doing and the 300 tonnes, how do you plug that gap? How do you fill that? How scalable can you be?
Very scalable, and I think there's a number of different reasons in which we can be scalable. First is we work with basically the biggest clearance companies in the UK, so we're one of the biggest buyers of second-hand furniture out there, and they have enormous networks. The other is working directly with clients who have large portfolios and creating a virtuous ecosystem whereby furniture from their estates is remanufactured and goes back into it. So there really is the capability to build our network of sourcing second-hand furniture.
Okay, thank you.
Just one last one from me. We're looking for something that is truly innovative, new and exciting.
Yeah.
How many competitors have you got who are also doing similar things to this? Or do you still see yourself as completely unique?
I think we are largely unique, although there are one or two others. But I think the thing that sets us apart is the quality of what we do, the integrated design service, and our commitment to delivering local social value.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Now I'm going to invite Hope Resources. Yeah, here we are. No, it's not you. I think it is. It's not you. I think it is. Critical infrastructure. Yeah, sorry. Oh, apologies. Kenetec. Sorry, I'm ahead.
I thought I was
Running
a bit
ahead of
keen there.
myself. Apologies.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Chapman, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Kenetec, and we are building a circular economy revolution for the construction industry through innovative design of new products from recycled waste. Kenetec is responding to critical challenges in the construction industry that I'm sure you've been hearing for the past few days. Key to this is brick shortages. 500 million bricks a year are needing to be imported to fill our 2.5 billion a year brick demand in the UK. This in turn is stifling growth in house building targets, commercial build and other renovations, and we all know that we need new housing somewhere in the scale of up to 300,000 new houses a year. We also have critical waste legislation coming in year on year up to 2021. 70% of all demolition and construction waste will need to be recycled, and zero will be able to go to landfill by next year. This is a critical issue for our society. And combine this with the environmental impacts of the construction industry, we're one of the largest emitters of carbon emissions, and indeed the construction and demolition industry is one of the largest contributors to waste. This is our solution, our first product, the K-Brick. This is made from over 90% recycled demolition and construction waste. We have no firing in our production, unlike traditional clay products, and we use no cement, and we have 1/10 of the carbon footprint of traditional concrete brick and clay brick products. Indeed, if the cement industry was a country, it'd be the third largest emitter on the planet. We are storing waste through this process. If we built a typical 2-bedroom home with the K-Brick, this would be storing 30 tons of construction waste back into new builds. We also have speed of production of our product. Within a day, we can make our product from reception of the waste through to a new product ready for delivery. We're the first to market with this high amount of recycled content in our product. And we're also the first that is an exterior facing brick product, which is about 80% of those 2.5 billion bricks used a year. We also have an innovation where we can color match and make bespoke colors through our use of recycled pigments. So we can be more flexible in our production sites, unlike traditional clay products and cement products. And we can also be based where the waste is, where the greatest need is. We are tested in-house because we're a spin-out from Heriot-Watt University to the British Standard testing. We are double the thermal insulation of traditional Portland cement products and clay brick products. And we have certification ongoing with the BBA, the British Board of Agreement. We're at stage 3 to get an Agreement certificate by the end of this year. and we're also going through an environmental product declaration with the BRE. We also have a UK patent granted, and we also have filed in the US, Canada, and Europe, because we really want to scale this process and our company from the UK globally. Why should we do this now? As I've already said, there's a huge shortfall in domestic supply of building materials, which in turn is stifling new house building, commercial builds and renovation projects, and there's a huge growth in green markets, as I'm sure you've all been hearing. And indeed, again, we need new homes. Up to 1 million new homes over the next 3 years are required. And the waste is significant. If we used the annual construction demolition waste through our process, we could make 4.5 billion new bricks to be used in production, in construction projects, which is nearly double the current demand. So there is masses of this waste. This will also in turn avoid landfill taxes, carbon taxes associated with production of fossil fuel rich products such as cement bricks and traditional clay-fired products. And through our thermal insulation credentials, we can also reduce the occupancy running costs. Our growth strategy is straightforward. The next 2 years, we're scaling production up to 3 million bricks a year. And then once we have our first site fully operational at this industrial scale, we're then developing the system and selling the system to waste handlers and waste manufacturers to democratize this incredible opportunity to reduce waste and enable, through a licensing model or a franchise model, to a real impact of reducing waste, both in the UK and then globally. And we look to make about 20 million bricks a year by year 5, still a tiny scratch on the surface of what we feel we can do. Also have exciting news. We've been selected for the Serpentine Pavilion this year, so you'll be able to go and visit a custom K-Brick module project in Hyde Park, which is going to be open from late June. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening today. Thank you to the BRE, and thank you to FutureBuild for giving me this opportunity, and look forward to answering more questions.
Thank you. Let me start this time. You talked about testing.
Yes.
Have you got any risks that you're aware of that you still haven't tested for, and what might those be?
So we're quite a new company, but we have 7 years backing of research and development that's been funded by a variety of academic funding platforms in Scotland. And we've been given, so we're in stage 3 of 3 with the BBA, we've been given the 16 standard tests, and we've been working through those, so we feel that we're covering those. But in order to reduce some of that risk, we're starting by being above damp-proof courses and up to 18 meters high, so we ensure that we have a set application that we know that we can target, and then we can develop from there.
You talked about the patents that you've been granted and the ones you've applied for
Yes.
in the US and Canada. Is that the product or the process?
It's for both. It's for both the recipe and the process by which we bring the recipe together to make the product.
So if you've got the process patented, then you have an opportunity to look at further products. I mean,
Yeah.
let's pick something. Brick slips
Yeah.
or equivalent thereof.
Please come and see some of our sample slips.
Yeah, okay.
We're looking at a variety of blocks, slips, tiles, roof tiles, the interior market. There's many avenues that we can go with this technology. Our patent is for a construction unit, so it gives us coverage over a variety of applications.
That's good. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, could you say a bit more about the cost of production of your product and how you sort of fit into the economics of the brick market?
Yes, so at the moment we don't compete with concrete brick. We're too expensive, but we're very comparable with clay-fired brick and external products. So they sell for about £600 to £800 per thousand for facade use, and particularly in social housing developments, and we're very comparable with that. We fit within that. And when we're up to scale, we feel that we can be cheaper and then start to compete with concrete brick products.
Thank you. If I could slip in another question.
Yeah.
The reliability of supply.
Yes.
I found in my experience with recycled aggregate, you're never quite sure you're going to have the right supply. How can you be confident you've got a supply of raw material?
So this is the critical part of our development is democratizing, so making sure the waste handlers are part of our puzzle. So we've mapped about 144 different waste handlers that have the correct certifications for our waste streams, and that also ensures we have an end of waste position, because otherwise this would still be a waste product even though we'd put it through our process. So the Kenetec process is the only one with an end of waste position, and as I said, there's so much more waste than we know what to do with at this stage. And even then, 4.5 billion bricks could be made if we could get up to that scale.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me just ask one final one about, which kind of picks up a question Keith asked earlier about new methods coming into the construction industry. How do you see your products fitting in with that?
We're looking at various modular systems for brick slips to go into modular panels and replace some of the incumbent clay-fired bricks that are often cut and put into these systems. So we can develop a zero waste version of a brick slip without having to cut products. And we're also looking at these modular systems that can be dropped into waste companies to really kind of improve that situation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And now it is time for Hope Resources to come to the stage. The fifth of our 6 pitches.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Turo. I'm here with Hope Resources, and I want to talk to you about a method of processing waste but being non-polluting at the same time. So, Hope Resources have developed a method of processing waste. We refer to it as vacuum reforming. It's done at negative pressure. It runs at lower temperature and lower pressures than conventional methods. And we can take mixed, unsegregated waste. To say that can range from the ones listed. You can have biomass, construction waste, medical waste, food wastes, coal, plastics, rubbers, tyres, all of which enter our process, and we produce syngas, which is synthesis gas, at zero emission. What that allows us to do is convert the syngas, which is a known entity, into a plethora of products. Our focus primarily is to produce ultra-low sulfur fuel oil, which can be used directly in diesel engines. And in the future, we'd like to move to the hydrogen economy. We feel that the hydrogen economy is really where power generation is headed. It's a very clean economy, and we can produce it, as I mentioned, with zero emissions. Our entire process is waste to zero waste. We take waste, and we produce 2 main products. One is the syngas, and the other is an ash or aggregate. And as you've heard, you can convert it into blocks and bricks, put it into concrete and road construction as well. Metals that enter the process are recovered and also recyclable. So yeah, from waste to zero waste. Are we skipping? Oh, there we go. So the way we implement the process is we have a significantly lower capex modular system. The system takes the footprint of approximately 4 shipping containers, 4 40-foot shipping containers, and can handle around 25,000 tonnes of waste per year. As I mentioned, it has the ability to process unsegregated waste, so we don't have the operational costs of receiving waste and sifting through it to process the bits that we want to and recycling the ones that we can't. To put 4 shipping containers in is a very low civil engineering cost. As long as they are flat and level and don't sink, we can operate, and it will take approximately 10 months from ordering a unit to be fully operational, running at 100% capacity if required. And as I mentioned, zero emissions, which is an important part of the production of syngas. Having a modular systems allows us to be very flexible. Currently, conventional methods of waste processing require a lot of haulage of waste to one set point. We can be very flexible. A town or city of around 70,000 people could supply enough waste to power 1 unit, for instance, and we can convert their waste back into fuel or into hydrogen that could power services such as bus routes, their cars, their daily commute within the same community without the need to ship, export, incinerate, landfill and land raise. And it would also be possible to go to existing landfill and land raise sites, empty them and put them back to their natural state. Depending on the waste that we're processing, the estimated return on investment is between 2 and 5 years. Different wastes come with different gate fees. Medical waste, for instance, are very expensive to dispose of. Municipal solid waste is considerably cheaper. The relative capex for our process, pound for pound of kind of tonnage processed compared to conventional technology, is significantly less, which means that it's more economic to put one of our systems in place. And we're not looking to build bigger and bigger units. If we need to handle more waste, we will put a parallel line in that will then process another 25,000 tonnes per annum. So just to go over the advantages of what we're looking to do. We process mixed waste. There's no segregation required, and we don't mind what's in the waste. We have a lower capex to set up. Our OPEX is significantly reduced through the method that we don't process it, and it's a highly automated system. It's a modular system. Transporting shipping containers is done around the world. We don't need to go bigger. We can keep it simple. And due to the kind of dual revenue of the kind of being the gate fee of the waste and the sale of the product, we have a very low production cost of our fuel. These are some of the things you can do with syngas if you're interested. Our preference would be to go to hydrogen or to liquid fuels. Liquid fuels, there's a ready market. Hydrogen, the economy is growing, and that's where we'd like to be. We'd like to be leaders in the production of hydrogen for the economy. Thank you. I'm sure you have some questions.
Heath?
Vacuum reforming
Yes.
is two words that I've heard together for the first time today. Thank you very
Excellent.
much for that.
That's the innovation.
Good. Is that your innovation? And is that you one of many people who offer this or could offer this? What's your ownership of IP in this space?
There is IP over some of the process, but not a huge amount. The main focus of ours is know-how. We're not trying to... IP is great, and if you can exploit it, excellent. But once you patent something, everybody knows what you're doing and looks at how to do it. Vacuum reforming is nothing that is exceptionally new. It's just a new application of processing waste. So knowing how to do it is the key, the clever part, the kind of the software that operates the system and what controls the process and the flexibility is what we have. It's not so much IP, it's know-how. And we plan to keep it that way. We plan to own and operate the plants. We receive revenue from the waste and sell the fuels. So.
It's very interesting and impressive. I feel it's quite a complex business with lots of potential sort of failure points. What sort of problems have you encountered and risks that you perceive associated with the business?
It's been a journey getting to where we are today. We started with coal. We've used biomass, and we are now testing with mixed wastes. It's really the perception that you can produce a clean syngas with zero emissions. People are worried about the various chemicals that are in plastics, the heavy metals. They come out in the aggregate. We have a demonstration plant in Italy that's been running. I know I've stood there, put car tyres in it, thrown my water bottle in it. Perceptually, it's hard to explain to people and get them to understand that you can do this and you can process the waste. With regards to the technology, we have a plant that's running in Argentina. It's based on a farm and it's part of a cooperative group. They put all of the farm waste into it. They produce syngas. They put that into an engine and they produce electricity and steam for the cooperative when it's operational, for yogurt production, the milk kind of cleaning of the bottles. So we've overcome a lot of those problems, and we are currently involved with projects. We're looking to put a project or a commercial project into Kuwait, where we're going to deal with a lot of car tyres that they have, and we're also looking at a project or involved with a project in India which is looking at cleaning waste out of the Kanga River. So what ideally we want to do now is to put that first unit into the UK and demonstrate that we can take people's waste to produce the fuel over here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you've nearly answered my question, but I was going to really ask about the future prospects. As the
Massive.
circular economy evolves, how
Yes.
can your business evolve along with it?
We don't have to process waste. It is possible to produce hydrogen. We refer to it, there's a partner company that we work with called Perpetual. It will be possible to grow our own biomass, trees. Actually, there's a plant specific we'd like to grow. It's called the Rhododendron. We can produce hydrogen at carbon zero. And that hydrogen can then be used for power production, fuel cell vehicles, transport. But we can get a complete cycle of growing biomass, producing hydrogen, and powering the economy. So when the waste dries up, and the UK generated about 220 million tonnes of waste last year, a number of tonnes was exported, so we reduced the impact of that. You're being stopped for time. So moving forward, when the waste dries up and people are recycling 90% of it, and the waste margins reduce, there will always be waste. Medical waste is always going to be there. We can transition to biomass and still be an economical viability, as it were.
Thank you very much.
So endless, basically.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
And now we're going to welcome the final entrant, which, according to my list, is CHEESE, otherwise known as cheese, I believe.
On a short one. Right down, that's better. Right, my name is Brian Harper. I'm the Technical Development and Training Director for the CHEESE project, which, as you can see, stands for Cold Hose Energy Efficiency Survey Experts. I guess I pressed the green button. Yes, there we are. We're in a world that's overheating. We're now up by 1 degree centigrade, and if we're going to avoid 4 degrees centigrade, we've really got to start saving carbon now. UK use roughly a third transport industry, domestic and buildings. Housing ownership there shows you that private rented and domestic properties are around about 80% of all the buildings. And I was pondering this problem over how do we actually sort out these buildings. And those are my hippie days when I first started working with thermal imaging. And over 40 years of experience with this, I know that thermal imaging has a big effect. I've introduced it into many markets, and as soon as a problem is seen, it's fixed. It's the writings on the wall. You can see the picture of it. So I was wondering how this could be utilized for our buildings, and why actually are so few of our buildings thermally imaged. It comes down to typical costs, too expensive, £500 plus. There are not that many competent thermographers in the UK who understand buildings as well. It is most vital to do the internal side of buildings. External surveys of building tells you very little about what's really going on with it. And also, who the hell is going to let people through the door with a video camera to take pictures of all the inside of the house? There's a resistance from the householders. My home is my castle. No one allowed in. What was the solution I came up with? We are bearing in mind this is quite a while ago. This is nearly 10 years ago. You've got to have the kit cheap, under £1,000. Survey's got to be very quick, 2 hours. It's got to be internal. You've got to gather ground truth data. You've got to make sure that you go into the building where you are invited. And a company is not really the best way to do it. It needs to be coming from the community as a trusted entity. We put this whole thing together and tried a trial over 3 years in Malvern, supported by a very tiny grant from DEFRA, about £3,000 or £4,000. And we developed a high-speed protocol. I already had cameras on my own, so that wasn't a problem. And we worked with Transition Malvern Hills, generated volunteer hotspotters, designed our own dirt cheap blower door, 150 quid, and we tackled behaviour change as well. Now that ran through, and the feedback was amazingly good. 65% had done something within 3 months to their house. From that, we formed a company called Energy Tracers, which was to expand it out sideways out of Malvern, and came across these people in Bristol who had just started this social enterprise, an ex-TV producer from the BBC, an expert in IT, and a very good expert on community outreach. They had been inspired by this, all the purple and blue areas where people cannot eat and heat the building at the same time. And fortunately, simultaneously, Fleur brought out a cheap plug-on thermal camera for an iPhone. which was used initially by us to do external surveys, so as we could then have pictures of people's houses from the outside to use in the outreach side to persuade people to grab hold of the idea. We put it together into a package there. Jeremy and I got involved to do our own special software called HeatView, which is inside it. I introduced my very low-cost blower door, and then we set up, I said, a training program, CPD, over 3 days, to train members of the public, housewives even, how to become energy tracers to survey the house. And we ended up, over the last 3 years, we've trained over 30 people to do this. We've done about 400 houses in the Bristol area. That's how it's used, camera looking and a wireless connection to a tablet, so the householder sees it. There is no report written. Here is a disaster of a conservatory, which has got air leakage around the underfloor heating through the floor. Well, I'm only a fraction through this. Is that including my 2 minutes? Because I haven't got the presenter's view with it. I'm going to skip quickly through this so everybody can see what they were going to get. Report, EcoBuild, very, very good feedback, as you can see there, repeated in Malvern. Loads of testimonials, and expanding it now so it crosses over and joins into the whole formal retrofit process. New technology, our own camera, Thermoman takes it around, a great deal of future activity. Financials, it's all done on a damn pittance, about 20 grand a year for doing 150 houses. We're looking to expand it with future function from hundreds of houses per winter period to thousands. And we're the winner of the Community Energy Most Innovative Energy Saving side. And we've just won a second award this year as well. Thank you. Questions, I think.
Apologies, I
lead on.
forgot we should be asking questions. Keith, would you like to kick off?
So you focused this so far in the southwest, and you had to skip a little bit through quickly at the end.
Yeah,
Can you just talk about plans for how you would scale up or scale out from where you are at the moment?
Yes, the technique has been developed in Malvern under Energy Tracers. It has been franchised to the Cheese Project in Bristol. And then from the Cheese Project, as well as growing it in Bristol, we are also sub-franchising it out into other community groups around the countryside. We have 3 already active, Phoenix Housing Association in London, South East London, Chelsea, Bath have just joined, and we've got a list of about 10 to 12 also wanting to join in as well, including, at long last, my own county of Worcestershire, which we got nowhere with 7 years ago. So it is all worked out financially how to do this, with royalty streams coming back through the companies, back to fund the future development, of which we have a massive future development coming down the stream on this, covered by intellectual property.
I absolutely see the relevance of what you're doing. What I wasn't entirely clear on was what your unique selling point is, how you'd stand out from the competition, because I feel there are other providers of related or comparable services out there.
We haven't found any. There is a thermal imaging industry out there, but it's not done through community approaches. That's the important thing. And also the pricing is so high. You're looking at £600, £700, even £800 for blower door plus thermal imaging. We are doing it at the moment for £100 to £150. If it was delivered as free at the point of delivery, adequately funded, we would have no trouble breaking this barrier to get into thousands and tens of thousands of houses, to kick the retrofit off, and immediately we have an effect on the amount of carbon footprint of residential housings in the UK. You're a trusted party breaking into it. Nobody else is doing this. We are talking to organisations overseas, because nobody's doing this around the whole damn world.
Okay, thank you.
I think you just put your finger on the real challenge here, haven't you? That
Yeah.
However great the idea is, it's about getting it into the market.
Exactly.
Making people change their behaviour, make decisions to spend some money and do something.
Yeah.
How are you going to influence the real change on retrofit that's needed? Got an idea?
We're already having a change to all the properties we have done. That is clear. We are now working with CSE in Bristol and also the Green Register and so on. We're doing 26 houses this winter as the front end. I see this as the very, very front end of the whole refurbishment programme. You do this first, get ground data, make the householder generate savings straight away, and as soon as they get their savings from simple things, draft proofing, etc., small bits of insulation, turning things off even, as soon as they see that, they then realise that what this refurbishment is all about. It sets them up ready to go on down into the deeper refurbishment, and our aim now over the next year is bridging that gap between our survey, where we're there for 2 hours and then bugger off. There's a gap there between that and past 2035. And we've got this other project called Warm Up, Skill Up, which we're developing in Bristol again on a community basis, which is concentrating initially on training people to do DIY, which has not been mentioned anywhere in this field so far, government or whatever, and we are wasting all those free, valuable hours that people don't realise they can do all this work.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for the
Answers.
evangelism.
Thank you. It's great to hear the enthusiasm.
Swap over.
So thank you very much to all the pictures, some fantastic pictures and a really varied set of ideas and suggestions. So Keith, Sam and I are going to now deliberate for 10 minutes, no more, make a very difficult decision. And I'd like to invite the pitchers to come back to the stage, each take a seat here. I know there's more than one of you in some cases. So that the audience can take that 10-minute opportunity to ask you any questions that they might be interested in from the ideas. At the end of the 10 minutes, Keith is going to announce the winner, and then we'd love to invite you to join us for drinks to celebrate whoever has won the award. So please stick with us.
Does anyone have any? Oh yeah, there you go.
Hi, just got a question here. The last gentleman that was speaking about the cheese system over here, hello?
Sorry.
Hi there. Hi. Yeah, so you spoke about the energy monitoring system. From what I understand, I was just looking at your website just to understand a bit more. So the area that I'm interested in is something that's being put into a lot of homes is these smart energy systems.
Yes.
So the 5G technology. And everyone's glossing over the fact that it's an amazing system, you can monitor the energy systems, everything. But as was mentioned a few weeks ago and has been spoken about for the last few years, 5G is a massive, huge energy hog, requires a lot of energy. And subsequently, because of that, it's emitting a huge amount of electromagnetic frequency radiation because it's 60 gigahertz it's emitting.
It's radar.
And 60 gigahertz, incidentally, is the frequency of oxygen as well. So people can figure out what that's doing to us. But I just wanted to know, because a lot of people are actually saying the technology is fine, but no one's actually saying we need to have a rational debate about this. But I'm just thinking your technology that you have, which is to show, let's say, a house that doesn't have 5G, and a house that has 5G, would you be able to see and show where is this extra heat coming from? And maybe we could settle this and actually say, well how efficient these systems are in the first place.
Okay. The power given out by these radio transmissions are extremely low. So we're not going to see any temperature effects. I've done work on this 30 years ago on the original analog mobile phones in the medical field. So I think you're confusing several things there. All we are doing is thermal imaging of existing houses to see where the energy they are consuming is actually leaking and disappearing from the house. Any monitoring beyond that is a simple clip-on meter measuring electricity and gas and so on. That's where our monitoring side goes, and that's as far as we go with this topic. That's as much as I can say on it at this stage. I could talk another 2 hours with you in a room somewhere about radio emissions and spectrum and absorption of gases. There's another one over there.
It's Mike Jaggs here from BRE. I am a thermal imaging camera operator. And also used to head up the Air Tightness Testing and Measurement Association, ATMA. I'm interested with, it's very commendable you're suggesting of community engagement, and certainly was something I was involved with in a pilot study in London, looking at greener homes for London, where they were looking at community engagement and things like that for giving advice and guidance for people in fuel poverty. I just wonder what sort of training you give to your operators so they can use a thermal camera and the blower door sort of with confidence and give accurate results. Because I mean, I know myself with thermal imaging camera, you can basically get it to say anything you like. And, you know, it's the interpretation of the images.
It is key. It is key,
So I just wonder what sort of training the operatives were given.
We have 3-4 stages to the training. The first training is to train people about buildings and construction, what they are through the ages, strangely enough. I start with the Neolithic roundhouse in that. It's surprising how people lap that up because they realise, oh, that's how my house is built. That's where the damp-proof membrane is, and that's what it does. Then what we do is we have a deep session on what thermal imaging is, and we go through the sorts of images that you get when looking at buildings. So they get interpreted, they see the problems of builds. In particular, they now can find the scandal of dot and dab plasterboard, which is affecting over 1 million homes in the UK and is not receiving anything like the attention it should have. We are finding it all over the place, even on real recent 1-year-old buildings. So they get to understand the interpretation of the image, particularly on buildings. They don't need to know anything about electrical cabinets and all the other things you do with thermal imaging. We then have a deep session run by Jeremy Birch, one of those three, which is on the equipment operation, the software, because it's all our own equipment package that we've put together. Here it is, you see. And that then gets them confident to operate the equipment, and then we take them around a community centre building, showing them it in real life. So that's part one of a CPD-approved course. Then on the part two, they go out into the field, and I take 2 surveyors with me, and spend 1 day doing 3 or maybe 4 houses. And I do it 1 survey myself. It's only 2 hours, and then the brightest of the 2 does the next one, and the lesser of the 2 does the third one. We then hand them over to other experienced energy tracers to take them out as their assistants. Right, and then they are all covered with it. But the training for the energy tracers is all done free. There's no cost at all. Sorry, somebody else got a question.
Hi, Gilly Hobbs from BRE. I think there are other people in the audience, not just BRE, but just moving on to furniture, maybe. Hi. So me and my colleague here, we've just actually finished some work for DEFRA, looking at extended producer responsibility. And one of the things we actually looked at was bulky waste, including furniture. So I suppose my question is, are you thinking of maybe moving into more the domestic furniture field? Because there's a lot of issues there in terms of waste going to landfill and people not being able to sort of repurpose their furniture.
I think in the short or medium term, we're going to carry on concentrating on commercial furniture, and the reason is the logistics make sense, because if you're collecting and operating a circular business model, it makes sense having to go to an office where there's hundreds of items of furniture rather than a domestic home where maybe it's one or two, and the reverse logistics become much more expensive. Also, the price point is different for domestic and commercial furniture. So there are different business models. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, because you can definitely remanufacture domestic furniture, but for the moment we are focused on office furniture.
Okay, yes, now Keith, we were going to take to the stage and announce the winner.
Thanks very much. The judges have reached our conclusion, but just a couple of words first. I think firstly, on behalf of all the businesses up here, I want to say two things. Firstly, it was really good of all the women to let the men come up and pitch on their behalf. It's a good learning opportunity for them. So 7 men pitched for six things. But actually, we really enjoyed the pitches, all 6 of them. It's great to hear your passion, your enthusiasm, and your ideas. Really quite inspiring. And it's also clear to us why these particular 6 were the winners in their individual categories. But we had to make a choice. But actually, I think even though we've made our choice, I think all 6 ideas have the potential for a sustainable future in our sector. So great. But actually, the one we picked in the end as our clear winner had a clear vision. They had a business model that we felt was scalable. They'd be able to attract ethical investment. And I think had quite a unique proposition for us to hear. So the winner of the big innovation pitch is Ripe Office. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.